we've got most of our rodeo drawings done. I'm going to give you some tips on pushing your drawing a little bit further to add those finishing touches. So right here I've got the drawing of my horse. I've started shading and adding value. Right now it's just kind of a base value. So what I want to do is I want to kind of get my picture and look at where the darkest parts of my picture are. And it seems like the darkest, like the blackest blacks are like his nose right here. His ears are pretty close to black. And then his back legs are not quite as dark, but they're almost as dark. And then a little bit around his face right here. So those are the areas that I'm going to go in and start getting darker first, because I know they're going to be the darkest areas. So I'm going to go in and start adding even more layers of my pencil. You don't want to push too hard. I want to have kind of medium pressure, because if you push too hard then it gets like real shiny, and that kind of ruins the effect of your shading. And I'm just kind of looking for the shapes that those dark values are making kind of in the face, just to add some more 3 dimensions, make it more 3-dimensional. And you're going to find if you're working with like a regular 2B pencil, you're probably not going to be able to get quite as dark as you need to go. So a couple things you can do about that is to one, get a drawing pencil if you have it. For example, this is a 8B, so I can get darker with this pencil than I can just a regular 2B pencil. And I can go ahead and darken up those areas. If you don't have a drawing pencil, you can just try to get as dark as you can. You can also try a black color pencil. Could help too. You'll just have to draw with it really lightly. And you want to notice that there's no really outlines on the horse. We don't really see outlines in real life, but you can do what we call lost and found line, where you can make some of the outlines just a little bit darker, just to kind of bring them out. So I'm just darkening up some of those lines, but not all of them. You can already see, like, once you darken these back legs, that's going to kind of push them further to the back and give your drawing a little more dimension. And it helps to do, I find, the darkest areas first, because once you get it nice and dark, that kind of lets you know how dark you need to go with the other areas of your picture. And remember, you want to keep your pencil lines nice and small. If it's easier, you can go in kind of circular motions. And I see a few highlights in his back leg, so I'm going to try to keep some of those areas light. That's kind of where his muscles are. So at this point in your drawing, you're just trying to kind of match the values and find where the darkest darks are and see where the lightest parts are. I'm going in and I'm gonna kind of darken out this edge right here, but I'm not gonna outline the whole thing, because if I outline the whole thing, that'll make it start to look flat. So now that we have these darker areas, now I can go in. I'm going to change my pencil because I don't want this leg as dark, but I'm going to go in and add a little bit more shading to it. I'm not going to finish this whole drawing because this will take a while to go in and add all these shadows. But I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of what to look for when you're adding the value. Because I notice a lot of times students just stop too early on their value, and you can make it even more realistic by just adding some of those darker values in and really pushing it. Another tip I want to give you guys is when you draw your horizon line, I notice a lot of people tend to draw it right at the bottom of the feet, and then sometimes they forget and they draw it right here at the bottom of this foot, and then these feet are still floating in the air. So think about that when you're drawing your horizon line, and do it somewhere like either in the middle of the legs or even higher. And I'm just gonna draw my line right here, I think. And the horizon line is just where the ground is meeting the sky. That way. And that starts to give the picture a little more space. You could add trees, you could add fences. Just remember, the further something gets back, the lighter it is in value. So like if I wanted to draw a fence in the background, I would draw it really light, and that will help make it look like it's even further away. Because as things go further away, they get lighter and you don't see as much details in them. So if you want to draw something really far in the distance, you're going to draw it really light. So those are some tips on when you're using like just regular graphite pencil. If you are doing yours in colored pencil, it's kind of the same thing. You're going to start with like a base color, and then you're gonna go in and you're gonna add your darker areas. So I'm gonna go in with a let's see, a darker brown, and you do want to make sure that your pencil is really sharp, because if your pencil is too dull, you won't be able to get a smooth shading. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start adding a darker brown to this leg, because I know that's darker. Going with medium pressure, you don't want to push too dark. You want to do really small lines, or like I said, go in a circular motion, like small circles, to try to really get that pencil in there, covering all the white. And the nice thing about colored pencils is that you can layer them. So I can go in with a different color brown and layer that on top and make it even darker. I'm noticing like these little highlights right there. So I'm just not coloring that part. I'm just leaving that brown that I had underneath as a base layer, and that will help make it look more realistic, kind of give them this muscle tone. The darkest areas first, and that'll help you know how dark to do all the other areas. Like for example right here, I see on this picture this little highlight on his ear. You can even go in with like yellow to add the highlights. Coloring with color pencil, don't forget to color the sky, right? Because typically the sky is not white. You could use blue, you could use oranges and reds and pinks and purples if you wanted to do a sunset. It's all up to you. So I can go even further on that, but that just gives you an idea of how to add some value and some layering to your drawing.